23 nations are now racing to join one economic alliance that could end the dollar's reign. Nigeria just became a member. Indonesia followed. And the shockwave this will send through Washington might be bigger than anyone imagined. This is the story the West doesn't want you to hear. The global economic order is shifting beneath our feet. For decades, the United States dollar has been the undisputed king of international finance. But in 2025, something unprecedented is happening. A coalition of emerging economies is quietly building an alternative system, one that could rewrite the rules of global trade, challenge Western dominance, and reshape the balance of power for generations to come. That coalition is BRICS, and it's growing faster than anyone predicted. Just weeks into the new year, Russia announced that nearly 24 countries are lining up to join the bloc. Among them, Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation and largest economy. Indonesia, the world's fourth most populous country and a major player in Southeast Asia, has already stepped through the door. Together, these additions mark a turning point. BRICS is no longer just an acronym representing 5 nations. It's becoming a movement. But here's the question that should keep financial analysts and policymakers awake at night. What happens when more than half the world's population decides to stop using the dollar? On the first day of January 2025, BRICS entered a new chapter. Brazil, assuming the rotating presidency of the bloc, announced the formal admission of Indonesia as the first new member of the year. It was a historic moment, but the headlines didn't stop there. Nigeria, with a GDP exceeding $500 billion and vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and critical minerals, officially joined the alliance. For a continent often sidelined in global economic conversations, Nigeria's inclusion is monumental. It signals that Africa is no longer content to sit on the margins. It wants a seat at the table, and BRICS is offering one. Together, these two nations bring more than just economic heft. They represent something larger, a fundamental shift in how emerging economies view their place in the world. For years, countries like Nigeria and Indonesia have participated in a global system dominated by institutions they had no hand in building. The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the G7. These organizations have long dictated terms, imposed conditions, and wielded influence with little regard for the voices of the global South. BRICS offers something different. It promises partnership over paternalism, cooperation over coercion, and perhaps most importantly, it offers an escape route from the dollar's stranglehold. Consider the numbers. BRICS now represents 55% of the world's population. Its members account for roughly 37% of global GDP. With Indonesia and Nigeria on board, those figures are climbing. The bloc isn't just growing, it's consolidating power in regions that have historically been under Western influence. Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America. These are no longer passive participants in a US-led system. They're actively seeking alternatives. Indonesia's entry is particularly telling. This is a nation that sits at the crossroads of some of the world's most critical shipping lanes. It's a founding member of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and it plays a pivotal role in regional diplomacy. For Jakarta, joining BRICS isn't just an economic decision, it's a strategic one. It signals a desire to diversify partnerships, reduce dependence on Western-led institutions, and assert greater sovereignty in foreign policy. Economically, Indonesia is a juggernaut. With a GDP surpassing $1 trillion and a population nearing 280 million, it brings serious weight to the table. Its natural resources, energy, minerals, agriculture, are essential to global supply chains. By integrating into BRICS trade networks, Indonesia gains access to new markets, financing mechanisms, and economic opportunities that don't come with the political strings often attached to Western deals. But here's where it gets interesting. Indonesia isn't alone. 23 more countries are reportedly interested in joining BRICS in 2025. Let that sink in. 23 nations, each with its own reasons, grievances, and aspirations, are knocking on the door. Who are these countries? The list is as diverse as it is surprising. From the Middle East, we have Bahrain and Kuwait. From Africa, nations like Burkina Faso, Chad, Equatorial Guinea, Senegal, South Sudan, and Zimbabwe. From Asia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Myanmar, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Latin America is represented by Colombia, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Even war-torn nations like Syria and Palestine have expressed interest. This isn't a random assortment. These countries share common frustrations. Many have felt the sting of economic sanctions. Others have been locked into currency systems that leave them vulnerable to the whims of U.S. monetary policy. Still others are simply tired of being treated as subordinates in a global order they had no role in shaping. For these nations, BRICS represents hope. It's a chance to trade on their own terms, using their own currencies, without needing permission from Washington or Brussels. It's an opportunity to access financing without the political conditions that often accompany loans from the IMF or World Bank. And perhaps most importantly, it's a platform to assert their sovereignty in a world that has long told them how to behave. Take Venezuela, for example. This is a country sitting on some of the largest proven oil reserves on the planet. And yet, crippling U.S. sanctions have choked its economy, restricted its access to international markets, and left its population struggling. For Caracas, BRICS isn't just an economic alliance, it's a lifeline. By conducting trade in local currencies with fellow BRICS members, Venezuela could bypass the dollar-based sanctions regime and regain control over its own resources. Nigeria faces a different set of challenges, but the underlying motivations are similar. As one of Africa's leading oil exporters, Nigeria has watched for decades as its wealth flowed outward while its people remained mired in poverty. Currency volatility, dependency on dollar-denominated trade, and external debt have kept the nation in a cycle of instability. BRICS offers a way out, a chance to trade oil in naira, partner with countries that respect its sovereignty, and build an economy less vulnerable to external shocks. The appeal of BRICS isn't just economic, it's deeply political. For many of these countries, joining the bloc is an act of defiance. It's a statement that they will no longer accept a world order defined by a small group of Western powers. They want a multipolar world, one where power is distributed, where voices are heard, and where the rules aren't written exclusively in Washington, London, or Brussels. So, to understand why BRICS is gaining momentum, we need to understand the role of the US dollar. For more than 70 years, the dollar has been the world's primary reserve currency. It's the currency used in the vast majority of international transactions. Oil is priced in dollars. Trade is settled in dollars. Central banks around the world hold dollars as a safeguard against economic instability. This system has given the United States extraordinary power. Because the world needs dollars, the U.S. can print money without triggering runaway inflation. Other countries absorb the excess. And because global trade is conducted in dollars, the U.S. can impose sanctions with devastating effectiveness. Freeze a country's access to the dollar system and you basically freeze its ability to participate in the global economy. But this dominance comes with vulnerabilities. The more the U.S. weaponizes the dollar, the more countries look for alternatives. And BRICS is offering one. The bloc's strategy is pretty straightforward: encourage trade in local currencies. If Russia sells oil to India, why should the transaction be conducted in dollars? Why not use rubles and rupees instead? If Brazil exports soybeans to China, why involve the dollar at all? Use reais and yuan. This isn't theoretical, it's already happening. China and Russia have been conducting bilateral trade in their own currencies for years. Indonesia is now exploring similar arrangements. With its energy needs and Russia's energy surplus, Jakarta and Moscow could strike deals that bypass the dollar entirely. Indonesia gets discounted oil. Russia earns revenue without touching the dollar. Both countries strengthen their own currencies in the process. For the United States, this is kind of a nightmare scenario. Every transaction conducted outside the dollar system is a small crack in the foundation of American economic power. Multiply those cracks across dozens of countries and trillions of dollars in trade, and you have a structure that could eventually crumble. But here's the catch. BRICS isn't accepting every country that applies. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has made it clear expansion will be gradual, harmonized, and strategic. The bloc is being selective, choosing members based on economic strength, regional influence, and alignment with BRICS's core values. This makes sense. Uncontrolled expansion could dilute the bloc's focus and create internal divisions. By carefully vetting new members, BRICS ensures that each addition brings tangible value. Resource-rich nations like Venezuela and Nigeria bolster energy security. Strategically located countries like Pakistan and Morocco provide geopolitical advantages. Each member is a piece of a larger puzzle. Brazil's role as the current president of BRICS is particularly significant. As Latin America's largest economy, Brazil serves as a bridge between BRICS and its regional neighbors. And Latin America, long considered the United States' backyard, is increasingly looking eastward for partnerships. Countries like Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia possess resources critical to the global economy. Lithium, copper, agricultural products. These are the building blocks of the modern world. By integrating Latin American nations into BRICS, the bloc strengthens its position in renewable energy, food security, and critical minerals. It also sends a message. The era of unchallenged U.S. influence in the Western Hemisphere is over. For decades, Western institutions have shaped the global economy. The rules, the norms, the structures, all were built by and for the benefit of the West. But that system is being challenged. BRICS represents a different vision, one of mutual respect, equitable trade, and sovereign decision-making. The West is watching nervously. If BRICS succeeds in creating a viable alternative to the dollar system, the implications are profound. The United States loses leverage, Europe loses influence. The global balance of power shifts irrevocably, but success is far from guaranteed. BRICS faces enormous challenges. Its members have vastly different political systems, economic priorities, and regional interests. China and India, for example, have a complicated relationship marked by border disputes and strategic competition. Russia's war in Ukraine has made it a pariah in the West, complicating diplomatic efforts. Brazil's commitment to the bloc may waver depending on domestic political shifts. Yet despite these challenges, BRICS continues to grow. The fact that 23 countries are actively seeking membership speaks to a deeper truth. The current global order isn't working for everyone, and when systems fail to serve the majority, people look for alternatives. So where does this leave us? BRICS is at a crossroads. It can continue its careful, strategic expansion, choosing members that strengthen the bloc and advance its goals. Or it can open the doors wide, embracing all who seek membership and risking internal fragmentation. The decision will shape the future of the global economy. If BRICS succeeds, we could be witnessing the early stages of a multipolar world, one where power is distributed, where currencies compete, and where no single nation dictates terms. If it fails, the dollar's dominance may continue unchallenged for decades to come. But one thing is certain. The world is changing. The old order is cracking. And BRICS, whether you see it as a threat or an opportunity, is leading the charge. The question isn't whether BRICS will matter. The question is how much. The global power structure is being rewritten as we speak. Will BRICS reshape the world economy, or will the dollar hold its ground? What do you think happens next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a real conversation about where this is heading. If this opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because stories like this, the ones that actually matter, are what we're all about. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.